The tiny crown dreamed that no man could ever keep cold wind, moved across the dead city like a slow breath from a sleeping giant. Dust rolled over broken streets. Tall black towers stood like empty bones against a pale sky. Nothing lived here. Nothing moved. A small human ship floated above the ruins. Its metal body was old and scratched from many journeys. Faint blue lights blinked along its side. The ship's name was Wayfarer. Inside the ship, 6 people watched the silent world below. They were not soldiers. They were not heroes. They were scavengers. They searched lost places and took what old machines and fallen cities left behind. In the front seat sat a young mechanic named Rian. His dark hair was tied back with a thin band. Grease marked his fingers. His eyes were sharp and always moving. Beside him sat the pilot, a calm woman named Vale. Her hands rested lightly on the controls. She spoke little, but when she did, everyone listened. Behind them stood 3 others. Taro, the ship's guard, tall and heavy, with a deep voice and slow steps. Ibo, a thin historian with soft eyes and a bag full of old data chips. And Leo, an engineer who always smiled, even when things went wrong. The last member, an older woman named Mara, spoke from the rear console. "Scans show no power, no signals, no life," she said. "This place has been dead for a very long time." Rian leaned forward. "Dead worlds still have parts," he said. "Parts still sell." Vale gave a small nod. The ship began to lower toward the broken city. Clouds of gray dust rose as their landing legs touched the cracked stone. For a moment nothing happened. Then the door opened. Cold air rushed inside. They stepped out together. The city was larger than it looked from the sky. Long roads ran between fallen buildings. Strange shapes of metal and glass lay half buried in the ground. Wide bridges hung broken in the air, going nowhere. No sound came from the ruins except the wind. Rian walked ahead holding a small scanner in his hand. It beeped softly as he passed by broken walls. "Old tech everywhere," he said, "but all dead." Ivo touched a tall stone pillar with careful fingers. Faded marks covered its surface. "This world had great builders," he whispered. "Look at the shape, the lines." This was not a simple people. Taro watched the empty windows above them. His hand never left his weapon. "Great or not," he said, "they're gone." They moved deeper into the city. Time had eaten everything. Some buildings had melted like wax. Others had fallen into clean, sharp pieces, as if cut by an unseen blade. Rian's scanner suddenly gave a loud tone. He stopped. "Wait," he said. "There is something here." The others gathered around him. The signal came from below their feet. They cleared away dust and broken stone. Under the rubble they found a flat metal door, smooth and black, with no handle. Mara stepped closer and studied it. "No rust," she said. "No cracks. This door is not as old as the rest." Rian pressed his hand against it. The door moved, not by force, not by sound. It simply faded away into light. A dark passage opened beneath them. Cold air flowed out from the deep. Taro looked at Bele. "Bad idea." Vale looked at the others. No one stepped back. "Short search," she said. "We go down, we look, we leave." They entered. Soft lights appeared along the walls as they walked. The passage was smooth and round like the inside of a giant pipe. No dust lay on the floor. No cracks touched the walls. It felt alive. They reached a wide chamber. In the center of the room floated a small object. It hung in the air without support. It was shaped like a tiny crown, not gold, not silver. It looked like metal made from light itself. Thin lines of soft white glow ran along its edges. Small points of color moved inside it like slow stars. No wires held it. No field surrounded it. It simply floated and waited. No one spoke. Rian felt a strange pull in his chest. Not fear, not joy. Something deeper, a quiet call. He stepped forward. "Careful," Taro said. Rian nodded, but his feet did not stop. The crown turned slightly as he moved closer. as if it could see him. He reached out his hand. His fingers touched the light. The world vanished. He stood in the same city, but it was alive. Green trees grew along the roads. Clear water flowed through shining canals. Tall towers reached into a bright blue sky. Machines flew above like silver birds. People walked the streets, laughing, talking, living. He looked down at himself. The crown floated above his head. Warmth filled his body. He felt strong. He felt wise. He felt endless. He lifted his hand. A fallen building nearby rose from the ground. Broken walls joined together. Cracks sealed shut. Windows formed from nothing. Life returned to the stone. Tears filled his eyes. He could fix everything. He could save every lost world. Then the crown flickered. The warmth left him. The living city faded. The towers fell back into ruin. The sky turned gray. The people vanished like smoke. Brienne fell to his knees on the cold floor of the dark chamber. Gasps sounded around him. The others stared in shock. Above Taro's head, the tiny crown now floated. Taro froze. The chamber walls shook. Outside, deep thunder rolled across the city. Stone streets began to mend. Broken bridges reached out and joined. Light filled empty windows. The dead world tried to wake again. Taro's eyes widened in fear. "I didn't do anything," he said. The crown pulsed once. Then it vanished from above him. The city died again. Silence crashed down. Now the crown hovered above Vale. She felt a sudden rush of visions. A burning sky, a ship under fire, friends lost in cold space. Without thinking, she reached out with her will. The Wayfarer, parked far above, suddenly appeared inside the chamber, whole and safe. Everyone jumped back. The crown vanished. The ship crashed back outside, landing hard but unbroken. The walls of the chamber groaned. Dust fell from the ceiling. The crown appeared above Leo for a single breath. He laughed in shock. Lights filled the chamber. Warm air flowed like spring wind. Flowers burst from cracks in the stone floor. Green vines climbed the dark walls. Then everything turned back to dust and cold. The crown floated alone again in the center of the room. No one moved. No one spoke. Ivo stepped forward slowly, his face pale with wonder. "This is not a tool," he whispered. "This is a dream." A low sound filled the chamber. Not from the crown, from deep below. The floor trembled. Mara checked her scanner. Her voice shook. "A signal," she said. "Strong, wide. It just went out into space." Ryan stood up slowly. "We woke something," he said. Above them, far beyond the sky, silent eyes began to open. In the cold dark between stars, old ships turned toward the dead world. The crown pulsed again, brighter than before. It rose higher in the chamber, then it shot upward like a beam of light and passed through the ceiling without breaking it. Gone. The chamber fell dark. Only the soft lights on the walls remained. They ran back through the passage and out into the ruined city. The sky above them burned with moving streaks. Ships. Many ships. Not human. Not friendly. Vale looked up in horror. "We have to leave," she said. They rushed back to the Wayfarer. Engines roared to life. The ship lifted from the broken streets. As it rose, a massive shadow passed overhead. A giant alien warship moved across the sky, black and sharp like a blade. More followed behind it. The dead world was no longer alone. Inside the ship, alarms screamed. Rian looked back at the city through the rear window. For a single second, high above the tallest ruined tower, he saw it again. The tiny crown of light, floating, waiting. Then it blinked out, and the first enemy ships began to fire. The Wayfarer moved through the cold void, engines humming low against the silence of space. Stars stretched endlessly on all sides, pale and distant. The crew sat in tense quiet, watching blinking lights on the control panels. Every eye, human and not, searched the darkness outside. Rian sat forward, hands on his knees, staring at nothing. "They know we have something," he said softly. "Whatever we found, they want it." Vale, calm as ever, did not take her eyes from the forward window. "We cannot fight them head-on," she said. "We can only run and hope we find a place to hide." Taro leaned against a console, crossing his arms. "Running will not work forever. These ships, they are older than any fleet we have seen. Their weapons can tear a planet in pieces. We need a plan." Ivo, hunched over his data chips, shook his head. "A plan? There is nothing we can plan against something that sees through reality. We touched the crown. We felt its power. And now they are coming, because it answered us." Leo sat quietly in the corner, his fingers tracing lines on the armrest. "It isn't just power," he said finally. "It is alive. Not alive like us, but alive like a river or a storm. It moves where it wants. It chooses the next wearer. And the next. And the next."
Mara tapped her fingers nervously.
"Then why us? Why did it appear to us first?" Rian thought about it. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't care who finds it. It just moves. A loud thrum shook the ship. Lights flickered. Vale grabbed the controls as a deep rumble passed through the hull. The forward monitor blinked with interference. "They are here," Vale said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were sharp. Outside, the stars were breaking apart. Massive black silhouettes glided toward them. The alien warships were huge, long and jagged, with glowing lines along their hulls. They moved as one, silent and deliberate, like predators hunting. Taro's hand rested on his weapon. "We are outmatched," he said. "Completely." The Wayfarer dropped lower into the system, skimming over a belt of frozen asteroids. Vale twisted the ship sharply, weaving between chunks of ice and metal. The aliens followed, unaffected, moving smoothly despite the obstacles. Ryan's scanner beeped suddenly. "Something is happening inside the ship," he shouted. A glow appeared in the main chamber where the crown had last been. It pulsed faintly, a soft white light moving across the walls. "Not again," Mara whispered. The crew ran to the chamber. The crown floated in the center, small and bright, as if waiting for someone. It blinked, and in a moment, it appeared above Rian's head. Warmth filled him, stretching through his chest and spine. He gasped. Outside, the alien ships moved closer, weapons glowing red, ready to fire. Inside, Rian lifted his hands, feeling the crown's power ripple through him. He imagined a shield, a barrier strong enough to push the alien fleet away. The crown pulsed. Light spread from his hands and the floor trembled. A wave of energy shot out from the Wayfarer. For a brief moment, the alien weapons melted into sparks. Their hulls seemed to bend and fold, but then the light faded. The crown left Rian moving swiftly to Mara. The shield collapsed. The fleet adjusted. And yet the humans survived, shaken but alive. Mara's eyes widened. It saved us for a second. The crown hovered above her, pulsing softly. It was beautiful and cruel. She wanted to hold it, to understand it, but it moved again, floating above Leo. The crew watched in awe and fear as Leo's small wish emerged from his mind. Instead of imagining weapons, instead of imagining escape, he simply wished for clarity, for understanding. The crown responded. Streams of information filled their heads, visions of other worlds, other civilizations, lost and gone, and sometimes thriving. Memories of those who had touched the crown before, a silent history of the universe itself. The alien fleet hesitated. Their captain, watching from the bridge of a massive flagship, growled in a language the crew could not understand. They had never seen anything like this. The crown did not answer commands. It ignored weapons. It acted according to will, not fear. Vale's fingers tightened on the controls. "We can't fight them," she said. "We can't outrun them forever." "The crown, maybe it's the only reason we survive." Ryan nodded. "Then we need to understand it. Not for us, but for everyone." The fleet closed the distance. Missiles erupted from their ships, glowing and screaming toward the Wayfarer. The crown pulsed above Leo. He closed his eyes and felt the smallest desire: to keep everyone alive. A wave of light exploded outward from the ship. The missiles vanished midair. The hull shook, but not a scratch remained. The fleet paused, confused. Rian laughed, though it was nervous.
"It's like it's playing with them." Mara's hands shook. "No," she said.
"It's teaching us, showing us what it can do, and that we cannot control it." Taro lowered his weapon, still tense. "It could destroy them all. It could destroy us all. It could destroy the universe." The crown floated again, now hovering between all of them. Its small white light pulsed slowly. None could guess where it would move next. Ivo spoke quietly. "The old records, the makers, they must have left it behind for a reason. Something bigger than power. Something that no one can hold forever." Vale nodded. "Then we have to be careful. One wrong wish, one wrong thought, and it could undo everything." Outside, the alien ships began to retreat, confused and wary. Their captain had realized that no weapon could claim the crown. Their fleet scattered into the void, leaving the Wayfarer alone, for now. The crew sat in silence, watching the empty space where the fleet had been. The crown hovered a few feet above the floor, small and glowing. Rian reached out slowly, but it did not move. It did not respond. It simply waited. "I don't know if it will come back to us," Mara said.
"I know it will," Ivo replied. "It always comes back."
"It is a dream, and dreams never stop." Outside the Wayfarer, stars stretched endlessly. The dead world they had visited was silent once more, but far across the void, other eyes had watched the crown awaken. The journey had only begun. The tiny crown of light floated above the ship, quiet and patient. And somewhere in the dark, the galaxy began to stir. The Wayfarer drifted through a dark belt of asteroids, metal groaning as small rocks struck its hull. Inside, the crew sat in tense silence, watching the empty void. The tiny crown had not appeared again, and its absence made every heartbeat feel louder. Rian stared at the console. "We can't just hide forever," he said.
"They will come back. And the crown—"
"It will appear again. We don't know when, we don't know where." Vale nodded, her fingers resting lightly on the controls. "We need a safe place. Somewhere remote where no one will find us until we understand what it wants." Taro's eyes narrowed. "There is no safe place in the galaxy. Not with those fleets chasing us. Not with the crown moving where it wants." Ivo leaned back in his chair, examining data from the ruins they had left behind. The old messages, the records of the makers. They said the crown cannot be held. It moves because it must. Power like this, hope like this, cannot survive in one mind. Leo tapped the armrest, quiet. "It is alive, not like us, not like a person, but it sees, it knows, it chooses. Every time it leaves, it changes something. Every time it appears, it tests us." Mara spoke from the rear console. "Test us or punish us. We almost died today. We have no control." Ryan clenched his hands. "Maybe that is the point. Maybe it doesn't belong to anyone. Not human, not alien, not even anyone alive. Maybe it is a message." Valley glanced at him. "A message? From who?" "From them," Ivo whispered. "The makers, whoever built the crown. They wanted something to survive when they could not." A sudden alarm rang through the ship.
Lights flashed red. Vale's eyes widened.
"Incoming!" Outside, a new fleet had appeared. Smaller than the first, faster, more aggressive. Ships shaped like black knives moved in from the distance, surrounding them. The crew felt a cold dread. They followed us, Taro said. They knew we would leave. Rian ran to the scanner.
It's not just them. There are more signals.
Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, across the system. Vale gripped the controls. Hold steady. We cannot fight this many. We can only escape. The Wayfarer twisted through the asteroid field, dodging rocks and debris. Outside, black ships fired glowing bolts, slicing small craters into ice and stone. The hull shook, warning alarms screaming. The crew braced themselves. Leo's fingers itched toward the crown, as if he could feel its presence, even though it was not there. Suddenly, the chamber lights blinked. The soft glow of the crown appeared at the far end of the room. Everyone froze. It floated in the air, small and bright like a distant star. Then it shot across the room and appeared above Rian's head. Warmth filled him instantly, stretching through his body like fire and water combined. Outside, a missile exploded nearby, but Rian did not notice. The crown pulsed. He raised his hands. He imagined a wall, a shield, wide enough to protect the Wayfarer. Light shot from him. A dome of energy expanded around the ship. The incoming bolts stopped mid-air, frozen like glass. Taro's jaw dropped. "It worked!" he shouted. But the crown moved again, leaving Rian for Vale. The shield remained only for a few seconds before vanishing, and the enemy ships adjusted. The crown's light pulsed above Vale. She closed her eyes, thinking fast. She did not wish to fight or flee. Instead, she imagined speed, a path through space itself, a way out of the fleet's trap. The Wayfarer jerked forward as if the void itself had opened. Stars stretched and blurred. The ship moved faster than thought, twisting between reality and the unseen, dodging weapons with impossible precision. The crown left Vale as quickly as it appeared, now floating above Taro. His desire was simple, survival. But the crown twisted it in strange ways. The ships around them seemed to slow, not because of speed, but because time itself bent. For a heartbeat, the enemy could not aim. Then the crown moved again. It was above Evo. His mind was curious, thoughtful. He imagined knowledge. The crown pulsed with white light. Streams of images flowed into the crew's minds, visions of old civilizations, alien ships, battles, ruins. They understood things that no one should ever know. The alien fleet hesitated. Their captain's voice came over the comms, shouting commands, but nothing worked. Their weapons failed. Their ships slowed. Confusion spread. Leo stared at the crown as it hovered between them all. "It is teaching them," he said softly. "Not punishing, not rewarding. Teaching. Showing what happens when someone tries to control it." Mara shook her head. "Or maybe it is punishing anyone who desires it for themselves. That is why it never stays. That is why we cannot keep it." Rian's hands shook. "Then, what do we do?" "Keep running! Keep hiding!" Vale's voice was quiet but firm. "No. We learn. We survive. And we wait for it to return. Then we learn more." The crown pulsed once, softly, then vanished again. Outside, the alien fleet regrouped. They did not attack immediately. They hovered at the edge of the asteroid field, waiting, watching. Something about the Wayfarer had changed. The crown had done that. The small human ship seemed dangerous, alive. The crew sat in tense silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Finally, Rian broke the quiet. "We need to understand it. Not for us, not for the crown, but for everyone it touches. Otherwise, it could destroy everything." Ivo nodded. "The makers left it for a reason. It is a dream, and dreams cannot survive in one mind. But they can teach, they can move, they can show the truth, even if it hurts." Taro let out a long breath.
If that is true,
"We are lucky so far." Vale's hands rested on the controls again. "We are alive. But for how long, we do not know. The crown will return. And when it does, Everything will change again. Leo leaned back in his chair. Then we wait. We watch. And we hope we are ready. The stars outside stretched endlessly, cold and silent. The Wayfarer moved forward faster than before, carrying its small crew deeper into the unknown. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of the human eye, the crown floated silently, waiting for the next mind. The first real battle had passed. The learning had begun. The tiny crown dream was alive, and the galaxy had noticed. The Wayfarer drifted slowly through empty space, moving away from the shattered asteroid field and the remnants of the alien fleet. Inside the ship, the crew remained quiet. The crown had not appeared again, and the tension was heavier than the stars themselves. Ivo leaned over his datapads, eyes scanning the old records they had recovered from the ruined world. "We need to go back," he said softly. "Back to the ruins where we first found the crown." Rion frowned. "Go back? After everything we've seen? After almost dying?" Ivo did not look up. "There is more to understand. The Makers left something we did not see. Something we need to find before the crown returns again." Vale sighed and adjusted the controls. "Then we go back. But quietly. We cannot afford another fleet waiting for us." Taro grunted, quietly.
Right, like hiding a fire in the dark.
The Wayfarer moved fast, slipping through the edges of uncharted space. Ice moons and broken satellites drifted past, silent witnesses to the humans' journey. The crew spoke little, each lost in thought. Neo finally broke the silence. "Do you think the crown understands us?" he asked. "Not just what we want, but who we are." Mara's eyes were sharp. "Maybe. Or maybe it only responds to action. Desire. Choices. It does not care for words, only for will." Hours passed. Stars stretched endlessly, cold and distant. The Wayfarer approached the ruins, the dead world rising like a gray jewel against the void. Broken towers reached toward the sky. Dust moved in slow clouds across the plains. Vale guided the ship carefully, landing near the place where they had first found the crown. The hull touched the cracked stone, dust swirling like smoke. The chamber doors were still sealed. Black metal, smooth and unbroken, waited silently. Rian stepped out first, scanning the area. "Nothing has changed," he said. "It looks dead."
Ivo shook his head. "Appearances are deceiving."
"The Makers left more than just the crown. They left a message. We have to find it." They moved through the city, careful not to attract attention. Strange winds moved across broken roads. The silence pressed against their ears. In the center of the city, the chamber awaited. The black door was untouched, perfectly preserved. The crew gathered, hearts beating in quiet fear. Rian reached out. The door moved away in a slow pulse of light, revealing the passage below. The walls glowed faintly, guiding them like ancient signals. Inside, the crown was not floating. The chamber was empty. But at the far end, a faint glow outlined a doorway. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly. Ivo approached the symbols carefully, scanning them with his tools. "These are not just decorations," he whispered. "They are messages, instructions, warnings." Taro stayed near the entrance, hand on his weapon. Warnings of what? Ivo did not answer. He traced the glowing lines with his fingers, watching patterns shift under his touch. The Makers tried to create something perfect. A ruler who could hold hope, guide life, control worlds. Leo frowned.
And they failed? Ivo nodded. The ruler became something else.
The crown. It is not meant to stay with one mind. Hope trapped in a single mind becomes tyranny. They could not allow that. So they built it to move, to escape, to teach. Mara spoke softly. So every time it appears, it is showing us lessons? Yes, Ivo said, but it is not gentle. It shows through experience. Pain, danger, loss, growth. and it will leave before anyone can claim it fully. The crown pulsed in their minds, though they could not see it. A gentle hum, like wind through a hollow tube, seemed to vibrate the walls. Suddenly the air changed. A presence moved in the chamber, heavy, deliberate. The crew froze. Outside the chamber, lights blinked. Signals in space, hundreds of them, were converging on the ruins. Taro cursed under his breath.
They found us. How did they find us so fast? Rian stared at the symbols on the walls.
The crown signals them. Always. Every time it awakens, it spreads its message. Everyone who has eyes in the dark of space will know.
Vale's eyes narrowed. Then we have no time.
We need to reach the archive before they arrive. The glow in the chamber intensified. A narrow stairway appeared, leading down into the rock below. The crew descended carefully. Deep below, they reached a vast underground archive. The walls were lined with strange devices, records, and machines that hummed softly. Lights flickered along the surfaces, showing images of ancient stars, worlds, and beings. Ivo moved forward, touching a console. Images filled the air. Cities rising and falling, ships moving through space, strange creatures, and humans in unknown costumes. The archive seemed alive. "This is it," he whispered. "This is what the Makers left. Their history, their knowledge, their warning." Rian stepped closer. "Why leave all this for us? We are just scavengers." Ivo shook his head. "Not just scavengers. Survivors. They knew only a species willing to endure, to learn, and to act without claiming the crown could understand it." A sudden vibration shook the ground. The alien fleet had arrived in orbit. Sensors showed hundreds of ships circling the dead world like predators. Taro raised his weapon. "They will take the crown. They will destroy everything." Mara shook her head. "The crown cannot be taken. It chooses. No weapon can hold it." Suddenly, the soft white light appeared in the center of the archive. The crown floated, small and bright, pulsing gently. It hovered between the crew. Its glow touched each mind in turn, testing, reading, measuring. Rian stepped forward instinctively. The crown pulsed above his head, filling him with warmth and vision. He saw entire civilizations, great and small, rising and falling. He saw the history of the Makers, their hopes, their failures. He saw himself, the crew, and the galaxy, as if through many eyes at once. He gasped. "It is showing us everything!" The crown pulsed again, leaving Rian for Vale. She closed her eyes, feeling it respond to her will. Instead of power or control, she imagined survival, safety, and knowledge. Outside, the alien fleet hesitated. Their weapons flickered and misfired. The crown's power bent reality itself, showing them glimpses of worlds they could not conquer. Leo watched as the crown moved between them, teaching without words. He understood finally. It was not a weapon, not a treasure. It was a teacher, a guide. Ivo stepped forward, reading the glowing symbols. The Makers wanted hope to survive, but never controlled. That is why it moves, why it cannot be kept. Power trapped in a mind destroys the dream. The crown exists to share, to teach, and to escape, before tyranny can take it. Taro lowered his weapon slightly. "Then we survive, we learn, and we let it go?" "Yes," Ivo said. "The crown will appear again. We do not hold it. We follow it. We understand it. That is all we can do." The crew nodded, heavy with understanding and fear. Outside, the alien ships had begun to move again, slowly encircling the world. The crown pulsed once more, hovering in the center of the archive, waiting for the next thought, the next desire, the next wearer. Rian looked at it and whispered, "We are not ready to control it." And maybe we never will be. The crown pulsed in agreement, or perhaps in amusement. It floated upward, disappearing through a crack in the ceiling, leaving the crew in quiet darkness. The wayfarer waited outside, engines humming softly. The crew would leave, but the knowledge of the Makers burned in their minds. The crown had taught them a lesson older than any fleet, older than any war, older than any ruler. Power cannot be held. Hope cannot be owned. And dreams no man could ever keep. The alien fleet began to close in, sensing emptiness where the crown had been. But the humans had learned something their enemies had not. The crown moves not for strength, not for greed, not for fear. It moves for understanding. The Wayfarer lifted off, carrying the crew from the dead world. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, cold and distant. Somewhere in the galaxy the crown floated silently, waiting for the next mind to touch, the next lesson to teach. The journey was far from over, and the tiny crown dream continued to walk, unseen, unstoppable, and alive. The Wayfarer moved through empty space, leaving the dead world behind. Stars stretched endlessly, cold and distant. The crew sat in silence. No one spoke. Each mind was heavy with the knowledge the crown had revealed. The small ship carried them alone, but the weight of understanding was larger than any fleet. Rian stared at the console. "We survived," he said quietly. "But for how long? How long before it returns?" Vale's hands rested lightly on the controls. "We cannot think like that." "We can only be ready. We cannot control it. We can only act when it appears." Taro grunted. "Act? Act how?" "It moves for its own purpose. It is stronger than any fleet, faster than any weapon. We are small. Nothing we do matters except to follow it." Evo shook his head, still absorbed in the datapads. "Not nothing. Every time it appears, every choice it offers, it changes the universe. We are witnesses. And sometimes participants. That is what the Makers wanted. They did not leave it for power. They left it for guidance." Leo leaned back, quiet. "Guidance or temptation?" Mara's eyes were sharp. "Temptation is part of learning. The crown shows us what we desire most. And then it moves. It tests us, teaches us, and moves on. No one can keep it because no one is meant to." Rian ran his hands over the console. "But if it returns now, what do we do? The alien fleets are still out there. Thousands of ships. They will follow it, chase it, fight for it." Vale's eyes narrowed. "We cannot fight them. We cannot control the crown. We can only survive and hope we make the right choices when it comes again." Hours passed. The Wayfarer glided quietly through quiet systems and empty sectors. Then, without warning, the chamber lights blinked. The crown had returned. It floated in the air, small, white, gentle, as if it had never left. The crew froze. No one moved. The crown pulsed softly, touching each mind in turn, testing, reading, measuring. Rian stepped forward instinctively. The crown rose above his head, filling him with warmth and light. He felt power stretching through him, a vast tide that could remake the world. He could end wars. He could rule fleets. He could protect the weak or destroy the strong. Taro's hand rested on his weapon. Don't try anything," he said. Rian did not answer. His mind swam with visions. He could see every fleet in the galaxy, every star, every lost world. He could feel the lives of millions, the pain of billions. And the crown pulsed with understanding, bending reality to his will, listening to his heart. For a moment, he wanted to stop the fleets, to end conflict forever, to make humans rulers of everything. The thought flashed in his mind, beautiful and dangerous. Then he looked at his crew. Vale, calm and steady. Ivo, hunched but thoughtful. Taro, heavy and silent. Leo, Mara, all staring at him. He saw their fear, their hope, their trust. He realized he could not hold it. He could not own it. No one could. Instead, he made a small wish. He wished that every mind in the galaxy could feel, for a single heartbeat, the dreams of every other mind. The crown pulsed brighter than any star. Light spread through the Wayfarer into space, reaching planets, fleets, and worlds. For a single instant, soldiers felt the fear of their enemies. Rulers felt the pain of the weak. Conquerors felt the hope of those they had tried to crush. The alien fleet stopped firing. The ships hovered in silent astonishment. Across worlds, beings paused, hearts quickened, minds opened. For a heartbeat, the universe shared one dream. Then the crown moved. It left Rian's head and floated upward, disappearing into the void. Its light stretched like a thin thread across space before vanishing completely. The Wayfarer was quiet. The crew sat in stunned silence, their minds still touched by the vision. Mara spoke first. He didn't take it for power. He didn't rule. He shared. Rian nodded, voice shaking. I couldn't hold it. I didn't want to. It is not meant for one mind, only for everyone. Ivo's eyes were bright with tears. The makers, they left it so that someone would understand. That hope cannot be trapped, that the universe cannot belong to one person. Only when it is shared, only then does it survive. Taro leaned back, breathing hard. We survived. We didn't destroy anything. We didn't win a war, but maybe we did something greater. Vale looked out the window. The fleets are still out there, but they hesitate. They cannot attack what they cannot control. Rian ran his fingers along the console. We changed something. Just for a moment, but enough to make a difference. Leo leaned back in his chair, a small smile forming. The crown moves. It teaches. It tests. And it leaves. Always. That is why no one can keep it. Mara's voice was soft. And that is why we are alive. And that is why we are human. We understand it in a way the fleets never will. The stars outside were endless and cold. The Wayfarer moved forward, carrying its crew deeper into unknown space. They were tired, shaken, but alive. They had learned the crown's greatest lesson. Power cannot be held. Hope cannot be owned. Dreams cannot belong to one mind. The crown floated somewhere far beyond the reach of human eyes, carrying the tiny pulse of shared dreams to new worlds, new minds, new hearts. It would appear again, somewhere, for someone else. It would move, it would test, it would teach, and the galaxy would feel it. The crew sat in quiet wonder, letting the weight of what had happened sink in. For the first time, they understood the crown's purpose. They understood why the makers had left it. They understood why it could not stay with one mind. They had seen its power. They had felt its truth. And they had survived. Rian finally spoke, his voice soft but certain. We cannot keep it, but we can follow it. We can learn from it, and we can make the choices that matter when it returns. Vale nodded. Then we keep going. We keep moving, and we keep watching. Taro exhaled. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad it is not ours. I wouldn't want to carry this burden. Not ever. Ivo smiled, finally at peace. It is a burden, but also a gift, one that must be shared, never owned. The Wayfarer glided through the endless stars, small and fragile against the vast darkness. And somewhere in that darkness the crown moved, carrying the heartbeat of countless dreams. The universe had changed in a single instant. Not because of fleets, not because of weapons, not because of rulers, but because one human had understood what the crown truly was. And the crown would return again.
The galaxy would never be the same. The tiny crown dream had walked once more.
And for the first time, someone had let it move freely. The Wayfarer moved silently through empty space. Stars stretched like silver threads against black velvet. The crew sat in quiet reflection, their minds still touched by the crown's vision. They had survived its power, learned its lesson, and yet they knew it would return. Somewhere, in the depths of the galaxy, the tiny crowned dream waited. Rian gazed out the window, tracing distant points of light. It has moved on, he said softly. We will never see where it goes next, but we will feel its influence. Vale nodded.
We were lucky and careful.
The fleets, they still search, but they cannot take it. They cannot control it. Ivo leaned back, hands resting on his knees. It does not belong to anyone, and that is why it survives. The Makers understood something we are only beginning to learn. Hope cannot be trapped. Power cannot hold it. Dreams no man could ever keep. Taro crossed his arms, deep in thought.
Then what does it want from us? From anyone?
It teaches, Leo said quietly. It shows us what matters. It shows us what happens when desire and power collide. And then it moves on. We only get a glimpse, a moment to understand, to choose. Mara's eyes were sharp, filled with the calm certainty of experience, and every time it appears the universe changes a little, small, but enough. Lives shift, choices shift, worlds shift. It does not take, it does not punish, it only moves, and everything else must follow. The Wayfarer moved past a quiet system. Planets floated like silent jewels, rings of ice and rock spinning slowly. The crew could see signs of life, cities small and fragile, lights flickering in the darkness. Somewhere below, beings were unaware of the tiny crowned dream traveling through the void, yet their lives would touch it in time. Rian thought of the crown's power. He could have ruled fleets, controlled worlds, made humans supreme over all. But he had not. Instead, he had made a single wish, to share dreams for one heartbeat, to show the universe a small pulse of understanding. It had been enough, more than enough. Hours passed in quiet thought. Then, as if in answer to their contemplation, the crown returned. Its light glowed faintly in the distance, small and steady, yet unmistakable. It hovered above the Wayfarer's main deck, gentle and patient. The crew gathered, hearts pounding. They did not rush toward it. They waited, knowing better now than to demand its power. The crown floated above Leo first. Warmth filled him, soft and gentle. He saw visions not of war, not of conquest, but of life. Cities rebuilding, forests growing, people helping one another. For a heartbeat, he felt the dreams of countless minds scattered across countless worlds. Outside, alien fleets paused in silent hesitation. Their weapons, their strategy, their pride, all bent around the unseen lesson of the crown. They could not hold it, could not command it, could not stop it. Lio breathed deeply. He understood now that the crown was not a weapon, not a treasure, not a throne. It was a mirror, a teacher, a reminder. It showed what life could be in one heartbeat, and then it moved on. The crown pulsed again, leaving Leo, and appearing above Ryan. Warmth spread through him like sunlight on ice. He could feel the weight of entire systems, the hunger of countless minds, the hope of millions who had never known peace. He did not wish for power. He did not wish for control. He wished only one small thing, that the light of understanding could touch every being it met, however briefly. The crown responded. Streams of soft white light reached out across space, brushing planets, stars, and distant ships. For a heartbeat, the universe shared its dreams. Soldiers understood fear. Leaders understood suffering. Conquerors understood hope. Then the crown moved again, leaving Rhiannon floating above Vale. She closed her eyes. She did not desire victory. She did not desire survival. She wished for guidance, for clarity, for a path that led to life instead of death. A pulse of light flowed outward, touching worlds far and near. Fleets paused. Cities stopped. For an instant, every mind felt what others felt, a single heartbeat shared across the galaxy. The crown pulsed once more, and the Wayfarer trembled softly under its glow. Leo whispered, "It is alive, not like us, but alive. It moves, it chooses, it teaches, and we are only its companions, lucky enough to witness it." Mara nodded, "And that is enough. To see, to learn, to live." Ivo spoke quietly. "It will move again, It will touch others.
Ah.
And they will make choices. Some will fail, some will learn, some will be changed forever. That is why it exists. That is why the makers built it.
Taro exhaled slowly. So it walks the galaxy, teaching, changing, shaping, and no one can own it.
Not humans. Not aliens.
No one. Yes, Vale said softly.
And maybe that is the most human thing about it. We understand that we cannot hold everything. We must learn to let go, to follow, to act wisely when the moment comes.
Outside! Stars passed endlessly!
The crown floated in the void, a tiny beacon of light, pulsing and moving. Across the galaxy, small acts of change began to ripple. A farmer found water where none had been. A city healed from a plague for a single day, leaving behind knowledge to save it permanently. A child stopped a collapsing tower for a moment, enough for someone to survive. The crown had walked again, and though it left no permanent mark on power, on fleets, on rulers, it left something greater. Understanding. A single heartbeat of shared vision, a ripple of hope, a lesson in humility and care. The wayfarer followed it quietly, not to catch it, not to claim it, but to witness and to learn. The crew had grown in the space of a heartbeat, understanding the weight and the gift of what they had touched. Rian looked at his crew. "We have been part of something bigger than ourselves," he said.
Not because we controlled it, not because we won,
But because we understood it, we let it move. And that is what matters. Leo smiled.
and it will move again. And touch others, and change them even briefly.
We cannot control the universe, but maybe we can help it learn a little. One heartbeat at a time. Mara looked out the window. The galaxy will never be the same, not because of fleets or wars, but because one small dream moves where no one can hold it. That is the crown. That is its purpose. That is why it walks. Ivo nodded. And humans were the first to understand it. That is why we will be remembered, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as the ones who first learned that hope cannot be caged. The stars stretched endlessly. The wayfarer glided silently, carrying its crew onward. And somewhere far beyond their reach, the crown floated, small and bright, pulsing softly, moving toward new minds, new hearts, new worlds.
A lonely traveler on a quiet world noticed a faint glow above their head.
The crown appeared for a heartbeat, and they felt a rush of shared dreams, hopes, and visions. They did not understand fully, but they felt the lesson. Power is not for keeping. Dreams are not for owning. Hope is only real when shared. The light lifted again, moving on to another mind, another world, another heartbeat. And the wayfarer followed silently, carrying its crew who had learned the greatest lesson of all. No one can keep the tiny crowned dream, but everyone can feel its truth. The universe remained imperfect, dangerous, alive, and full of conflict. Fleets still moved, empires still fought, stars still burned and died. Yet, somewhere in the dark, a small crown of light walked the galaxy, teaching a lesson older than war, older than greed, older than fear. The crown would return again, to new minds, new hearts, new worlds. It would move, it would test, it would teach. And humanity had learned the first truth. To follow the dream, to understand its lesson, and to let it go freely, was greater than any crown, any power, any throne. The tiny crown dream walked on, and because no one could keep it, it would never die.